so often in the self-help industry, there is a book or a guru that explodes in popularity. In terms of books, some prime examples of this are Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, Unleash the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, as well as The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. These books define the industry as they take over public view of what self-help is, and there is a new iteration of that. It's a book by Mel Robbins that speaks of a particular philosophy that is seemingly appropriate for the times that we're in right now. The signature advice revolves around the let them theory, where the idea is to sit back and watch people implode or stumble over themselves.
What?
It's fitting these days as we see more powerful figures embarrass themselves, get laughed at, or are mocked by other individuals. Some even fall from grace. They create a string of hypocrisies that undermine who they are, and this book is telling us to just let them do that. And that someday they will get their comeuppance. They'll get their just desserts. And while that sentiment on the surface feels nice, it's also pretty bad advice in its own way. After all, we've seen many people cause all kinds of damage and harm before they were inevitably shoved off.
Don't try it.
The idea of letting someone go ham at whatever doesn't seem like it's the best path forward. Beyond that, it got me thinking more about some of the advice that is being offered by gurus as a whole. Specifically, why even popular advice that seems fitting, like Mel Robbins, can still make us feel bad if we actually put this into practice in our own lives. So I want to take some time to talk about some of that. Why do we actually feel bad about this sort of advice, and what can we be doing to make advice better for us and to actually grow as human beings? Well, my first suspicion is that it's by design, and to understand that, we need to go back in history to when self-help was first established. History, as they say, has a tendency of repeating itself, and learning about the history can explain why something is the way that it is now. In the case of self-help, we want to be looking at the work of Phineas Quimby and Mary Baker Eddy. You could see these two individuals as the establishing figures for what self-help is today, although there are several people that have contributed to this. When looking at their individual actions, Quimby focused on theatrics, performing on stages and having speeches on how to improve one's health. He pulled crowds in by claiming that he has never gotten sick in years, and all of it has to do with his philosophy and ideas. He would go as far as to present the belief to anyone who listened. His claim was that illness and poor health were make-believe, that they were all just in our heads, and that we got sick because our brains thought that we were sick. And so his overall strategy to fix that was to be direct as possible. Eddy, on the other hand, was more bound in religion, and so leaned more into some mystical aspects that we see in self-help right now. She pushed the idea that addressing psychological states and mentally soothing ourselves can solve a great deal of problems in our lives. If all of this sort of sounds familiar, it is. These days, those tactics haven't really changed all that much. You have people like Tony Robbins making dramatic appearances and encouraging others to chant and dance with him, just as Quimby did centuries ago. Similarly, we have people like Mel Robbins or Rhonda Byrne who are telling us to fine-tune our mindset as that is our way of solving various problems in our lives. The only problem with this is even back in the 1800s when this was first established, that advice wasn't that effective when we actually put it into practice.
Éxito.
Obviously.
Obviously, right?
Silly me.
Quimby wasn't taken seriously at all, and his advice amounted to basically snake oil salesmanship. It was a similar claim that Tony Robbins actually had to deal with early in his career. The only difference is that Robbins was smarter than Quimby and managed to brush those allegations that his advice was predatory or was just made up. Eddie's approach, however, was far more lucrative though, even though the advice, even back then, was more far-fetched. It still has some semblance of realism to it. It made sense to grow your mindset and to improve it, although there was no evidence to support any of Eddie's specific techniques or methods in making that happen. In the end, those individuals were selling feelings and vibes, and a lot of modern self-help falls into this category too. We can point to Eddie's own success as reasonable proof that selling the vibes and the feelings over practical solutions is just better business. And so jumping into this industry, many self-help gurus fall into that particular line. They blend the realm of mysticism and practicality to provide some general pointers, but lock any genuine help behind expensive courses or coaching services that may not even help at all the while trying to convince you that these are things that you absolutely need to be buying and that they are a trusted source. And on top of them trying to be very friendly about all of this. This raises a series of problems that are concerning. First one being the fact that the guru doesn't really know you. And this also applies to me. You are a stranger to me and to every other guru that is out there. And so trying to be like your best friend right at the front door feels weird. Especially when a guru's end goal is to just sell you something or try to get you to do something. All I want you to do is to like this video and subscribe to this channel, but that's really about it. But for other people, they want more from you. And so from that particular angle, you already have a lot of heavy bias into how a guru is going to be approaching you and how they are going to try to help you. They're going to be biased in selling you this thing and believing that this is the best solution out there rather than getting you to look at anything else or have themselves consider the context in which someone is engaging with that content.
You'll eat a muffin. You'll eat it and like it!
And so that leads to this second problem, the fact that advice is going to be lacking depth. When we go off of feelings and vibes, we're going to look at treating the present emotions, whatever those happen to be. We won't look directly at the source that's causing those problems in the first place. In the end, we're going to be facing the exact same problem, but all that a guru did was provide some temporary relief and enjoyment, all at the cost of your time and your money. I wouldn't say you've been scammed, as the guru did deliver an experience, but it's not exactly what you wanted, or what you were looking for, or what you were hoping to get. In terms of your own growth, these factors essentially make a lot of advice more akin to junk food. It's visually appealing and addictive, but in terms of practicality, it's pretty bare bones. That's not to say every guru is like this, as gurus can grow and be better about this sort of stuff. It's more that a lot of gurus aren't keen on doing something like that. They're content with serving junk food if it keeps the base addicted and coming back for more. And they do because those vibes and feelings are equally as powerful and addictive to experience. One of the reasons the advice sucks so much is instead of encouraging people to dive deeper into the advice that was given and to self-reflect and to cherry pick that advice and mold it into your own context, people are encouraged to just check out more of what the guru has to offer.
Ironic.
From buying another course or watching another video or buying their book, the mindset for doing this is more, maybe the next one will help you. and less, I like this person and it seems like they genuinely want to help. But out of all of that, this raises another question. If a lot of advice is this bad, why do we have people like Tony Robbins selling pseudoscience, or several self-help gurus offering deep scientific advice without having a science degree or the discipline to conduct research? How can these broad and general pieces of advice that feel bad become so effective and widespread? Well, the answer is simple. It's that advice doesn't sell you just vibes. It also sells a compelling narrative. Overall, simple advice feels effective because it creates a sense of progression. But self-help gurus who have been able to create massive platforms go one step further than that. They sell an entirely made-up story, a narrative that can influence people to buy into it. Going back to Mel Robbins and her let them theory, the story that she spun and the advice that she is now profiting off of has been under a lot of controversy. Beyond the advice not being all that helpful, one of the facts that has come up is the fact that this isn't even Robbins' own idea.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
As it turns out, there was a whole Let Them movement that was being organized. It was a small grassroots movement with one of the members making a poem that was symbolic for that movement. And while there was nothing wrong with collaborating with others and sharing work, it is wrong to not provide credit where it is due. It's even worse when you provide a weird and convoluted story around it. Robbins' claim was that the let them theory was just this ancient wisdom that she somehow picked up somewhere and that she wanted to share at this point in time, conveniently enough. But the reality is that it feels like she would rather lie and profit off of it than say that she got inspired by this poem that was written in 2022. Very ancient indeed. The poem itself is still a very lovely poem, and I'll share the link to that down in the description below. But my overall understanding is that the Let Them movement is about valuing self-preservation and individuality, which is important to a degree. But the intention gets warped when you take those words, provide no credit, and try to profit from them in a book. And when you have that context, the advice that is being offered just feels bad. So at the end of all of this, what can we do about this? Well, for starters, the reason a lot of people are this way is because of capitalism. The worshipping of our own individuality and romanticizing it as a result of capitalism isolating our lives. Self-help really isn't going to be getting better until we begin to try to lift more people rather than trying to make a claim to fame and deceive other people along the way. If we try to grow collectively, we're going to be getting a lot more things done and also change a lot of the narrative that is being spun around in the self-help movement right now. That is going to be taking a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it's going to be a slog to get through. So alternatively, the very least that we can do is just be mindful of our own surroundings. That can really make a huge difference. For one, I know there is a lot of good advice out there. I know because I make a big deal of trying to provide said good advice wherever I can in my writing and in these videos. The only issue is that finding it is very difficult. Going back to the whole Let Them movement, that was a small group with very good intentions, and they still do have that. The issue was that Mel Robbins came in and platformed that advice and in the worst possible way while claiming credit for it. Similarly, there are people like me who are passionate about providing more researched advice, people who have a more practical approach and show what's going on behind the curtain, as it were. And that's really the solution here. It's a matter of looking at these smaller, lesser-known platforms and supporting them in your own way. It's taking their advice and actually trying it out and seeing if you can get anywhere with it.
Do it!
And it's Also keeping in mind that not every piece of advice is for every single person. Unless the guru knows your exact situation, they're going to be guessing on what generally works for you and base it off of what they have seen and what they have experienced in their own life and in their careers. As such, you should not be taking their word as the absolute truth, and that goes for me as well. Instead, you want to try to mold that advice into your own situation. Build up your own systems off of what they have provided to you. And you do want to be doing that because this is your own journey. This is your responsibility. And you know that path better than anyone else. Thank you guys so much for watching the entirety of this video. I would appreciate it if you left a like on this video and also to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much.